And the next presenter is going to be Mike Smith from SteelCell of North America. Now, I have a bio on Mike. I could read it to you, but I don't need to read it to you. Mike's been a friend of ours for, wow, going on 30 years since he used to work for Habersham Metal Products. He now is are you the CEO? He's the CEO of SteelCell of North America. They make, by far, the best steel cell. And today, you're going to see for the first time ever, brand new product, mental health. SteelCell will be outside. So I'll encourage all of you here in person to come see it, on the web, view it, and look at it. All right? Go ahead, Mike. Take it away.
Thanks, Jim. All right. I'm between you and break and viewing some of the products hands-on, so I'm going to try to move along if we can get the presentation up. Really want to talk today mainly about, what is prefab. I have a video. If they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, hopefully this video is worth 100,000. You can kind of see how this stuff works. Then talk about, okay, so how do I integrate that in, and then at the end show you a few recent new products and options that are available in the prefab world. Before I do that, Joe, thanks, Polygel team, Sanders team, what a great event, professional as always. And I want to really reach out and welcome. I have several friends from actually multiple Caribbean countries online at the webinar. I want to reach out to you, my friends, and thank you for participating here. I have some in the audience as well. So this is an international event as well as a national event. Unfortunately for our society around the world, we continue to have problems wherever you are. And, we can incarcerate people, we can treat people, we can get people ready to come back maybe after they've served their time and, be better contributors to society. So that's a little bit about what everything we do revolves around. All right. Oh, I need to go back, sorry. Okay, so there's a growing need for prefab. Why is there a growing need for prefab? Well, in our construction world, the construction talent continues to age. There's a lot of reports, a lot of articles you can read. For every 2 that we're retiring, we're almost getting back 1 coming in to learn a skilled trade. So that's pushing a lot of success, if you want to call it that, into using prefab. Do we have 30 new masonry contractors, people learning that trade? Do we have that many plumbers coming in? I think the electrical and mechanical side of the world, they're doing a little bit better, but some of these old traditional trades, we're losing talent. I think someone said the average age of a construction worker now is well over 50, which should be concerning us. We know there's a big need ongoing. The prefab world and anybody that's related to it are continuing this need to create some new products. How do we solve some problems? How do we provide something that, is a scarce resource now? And the prefab modular industry has really focused on that to come in and be a major player. Now, it really doesn't matter in today's world, whether it's a extremely large project, a high-rise project, a medium-size, or a small county jail. Prefab gives you options that are going to get you a better solution and better outcome on your project today. And don't think, and like I mentioned, I have a video, don't think we're talking about rolling in a jail. That's really not the way it is. We're prefabbing some components that make sense. And we'll talk about how to determine that before the presentation's over. Our industry has moved rapidly away from stone, which is porous in any form, into the steel based products. That's a non-porous surface. We'll talk about that a little bit. But again, we'll let you see kind of what's going on. And I'm going to ask them to start the video in the back, please. friends from Garmon Construction for that video. They do a good job, and I'd love to have some of the other CMs as you record these projects. I'd love to see that, but you'll find a lot videos now on YouTube and some other platforms that give you an idea how jails go together. Now, I think the interesting thing about that video is you did see that part of the building was up. Yeah, we've kind of moved away from give me an empty slab and throw it down and build around it to integrating, critical paths so that we get, as an owner, you're buying a new product with LED light fixtures, new stainless toilets, so we want to get the building up, kind of close to dried in, at least a good roof on the building, and then move the units in and keep those as new units going forward. Now, design and planning stage, I think it's critical, especially if you're going the prefab route. First off, determine what type of prefab you're going to use. It's not really possible to say we're going to design this to meet any kind of prefab option. That's really not true. If you do, you're going to ask everybody basically to design worst case scenario, so everything will work. Well, that's going to cost your owner some money. I think there's a good process in pre-qualification and research. Get out, kick the tires, visit project sites, visit manufacturers, and pick the product that you want to use, and then design to its strengths. And that's going to give your architect and your whole design team a lot better path to getting the project on the street and under construction quickly and on, or hopefully under budget. Interact during that time period with your prefab manufacturer. What are my options? And I think Sheriff Stanford made a huge point. I'm going to run it, so I know what I need. I might need an anti-rollout plate on the top bunk. I might need a bunk step. I need more glazing looking into the cell. I need a special cell for special needs inmate. Get involved, ask what's available, and sometimes even if something is not available, you'll find the talented manufacturers can help work with you to come up with it. We were doing a mock-up for a county jail in Georgia, a large county jail in Georgia, and we had the mock-up built, and the sheriff and his staff walked through and said, what about, Johnny Jones that rolled out of the upper bunk, 20-something-year-old guy, and now, the county is paying for his quadriplegic state and will be, because otherwise he's pretty healthy, for several years. Give us something that will keep somebody from accidentally rolling out of the top bunk. So we worked with the county, we developed it. It's now an option. That's pretty much everything you're always going to see from a lot of these manufacturers is, we heard this was needed or a client needed this, and we just save those libraries and share it with clients going forward. I think one of the important things always is that back and forth. As we're developing the project before it hits the street and you get surprised on bid day, what is this going to cost? I may want to add an inch here. Well, does that inch cost me $10 or $1,000 just because it's that inch? So I think those things are very key to working your way through this project. And once you've made these selections, then you need to stick with them. You're going to have a design, you're going to have a process rolling, and as Joe mentioned, as the job rolls near the street, there are some people that just bid. And when they just bid, they just pick up a set of plans and say, I'm going to throw a number at it and see if I get it. They may get it if you don't support your architect, support your CM, and actually say, nope, stick to your guns. As the sheriff said, this is what I need, this is what I've saw, this is what we've researched. I'm sorry, I can't I can't be your guinea pig. My county cannot be your guinea pig. I'm sorry, where were you 3, 4, 6 months ago when we were planning? I think that's very important. During this whole planning stage, if you've selected prefab, you now have an option or maybe multiple options on your critical path. If you're building a high-rise facility, some do, you may need to get significant part of the building structure up. You may have to, be concerned about roads around the building. Do you close them? Do you leave them open? Because usually those are metro areas. Take care of that and plan for that, but it also gives you an opportunity to take advantage of maybe multiple critical paths or multiple paths. You don't always have to put A before B before C before D. You might, with prefab, be able to go A, C, D, E, and then drop in B. So just know that that process needs to go on and work with your design team to do that, to end up with hopefully a successful job. All right. Now, it's critical if you've made your decision to look at material and specifications. Prequalification, I think one thing that Joe was really saying there is, our industry used to have a list of pre-approved manufacturers, and that list stayed the same, stayed the same, stayed the same. Well, it's almost this group of professionals' opinion now that you should have no one pre-approved. You should qualify everyone to bid your job. You don't know what happened last week. You don't know maybe what happened on a job out in Colorado that involved the same manufacturers that you may be looking to use in Ohio. Steel has become the predominant material, as I discussed. Why? I think I've listed some of the key advantages here. Lighter weight than our traditional stone options. It's kind of uniquely suited for that mid and high-rise building that we're starting to see in some of the large projects. And having said that, it's just as quick and efficient for your 58, your 120 bed facilities because of all the other building technologies that are available now. I think it's very important in the steel world that you understand there is a thing called zinc alloy galvanized steel. It is a steel that comes from the mill that has a zinc coating on it, that has corrosion resistance in its raw form. Then moving from that, adding the right coatings to it, you have non-porous materials, non-porous coatings. What have we been battling for the last 2 years? A virus. We need to sanitize. We need to keep clean. Meth, users have, body sores and spread disease. We've all heard and battled, staph infections, MRSA infections. You need surfaces that you can clean quickly and put back in use. We did a county jail a few years back now. Some in the room that were on it, they actually had an outbreak of MRSA. And it took 28 days to mitigate the whole entire facility. So there's a month of moving everyone out, trying to control that bacteria. With the right products and surfaces that are available on them, that mitigation could have been 24 days and limited probably to just that cell or those areas that the inmate had been part of. So finished coatings are critical. Probably if you're talking with a design team, and even if you're looking at a new product that's not one that currently exists, that marine and industrial coating lines is where you should be looking, not necessarily in a cell just at an architectural coating, but something that's designed for a wet area and that's designed for high abuse. On our particular products, polyurea is that. Some might know it as Rhino bed liner or Line-X bed lining. That is the material basis of the coatings that we use on our cell. And, the architects aren't going to be surprised, but some of you that operate a facility, there are a myriad of testing requirements that apply to these products. All the products you'll see today have not one, but multiple ASTM test standards. In particular, on the products that we manufacture, we're focused in on ASTM F2322, which is, guess what? An impact or an attack on a vertical detention wall. Well, that makes a lot of sense. We do want that room to hold whoever's in there, even if they create a tool, dislodge something, and try to go through the wall. There's the other test that we're really concerned about would be a door and frame assembly, F1450. We attack the door. Well, the thing about a jail is not only does it need to hold the inmate in if that situation goes, but then after the assault on the barrier's done, you still have to be able to get an inmate out. So these tests take care of that. Now, the important thing I want to bring up, and there's one for windows, there's paint adhesion, there's ceilings, there's, everything under the sun that a large section of our industry has developed and said there's a need for. When it's all said and done in this pre-qualification phase, you want to be asking for test results. And surprisingly, we've seen this a number of times. The response to a pre-qualification is I'll send you the test standard and say we test to that. The test standard, if you read it, tells you exactly how the results should be presented so that people can verify, owners can verify that the product they're getting actually passes the test. It's amazing what we see sometimes. So I would tell you that's a very important step that you need to make sure your architectural and CM team is doing. I'd like to see the test reports. We're spending $30 million on this jail. How do I know that door holds an inmate? And in the end, we're building life safety products. We're trying to protect the inmate from the inmate from the or public from the inmate, staff from the inmate, and in some unfortunate cases, maybe the inmate from the staff. These are life safety products and they deserve your attention. They deserve the questions that you need to ask your design team. Most of the designers here are quite well aware. I'll say that very last statement on this screen, that should be a minimum, not the end-all be-all qualifier, but a minimum. Shouldn't be talking to me about building a jail if your products aren't designed to work properly in a jail. Am I doing something wrong here? All right. So what do these look like and what options are available? I think we all have seen some of these. Probably the most typical thing we're seeing in the market right now is a 2-bed or 4-bed unit, a limited number of single-bed units. I guess the cost advantage value proposition for the owner on a 4-bed unit is, we're sharing one, toilet shower area and one door and frame assembly. There's still some segregation there for your, depending on how you're going to stratify your inmates. Some may work in a 4-bed scenario where others work better in a 2, and then obviously you're probably going to have your highest disciplinary issues or highest risk inmates in a single-bed unit. One thing that's become really prevalent, especially with the onset of the prefab options from SteelCell and others, is a common rear chase. And what this has basically done has moved that, and some of you may still have these facilities, moved that triangular chase that's actually in the inmate day room. And anytime you need to look at the plumbing, you're taking a toolbox right into the inmate day room and hoping you come out with all the same tools you went in. What designs have morphed to is one like you see in the picture here. There's a walk-around area behind the cell. Now, that doesn't eliminate the possibility of bringing in natural light. You can still bring natural light in, and you may have a design feature that offsets that where, the sheriff talked about everybody driving by the jail, and unfortunately, sometimes if we have a window that's right in the wall of that cell, you may drive by the jail and see something you really don't want to see. So you can offset those windows, still bring in natural light. So it brings to bear a lot of design options that way. Affects the contracting, affects the speed of the facility, and then the longer term thing is, as a sheriff operating the facility, you hopefully have a maintenance staff as a county owning it. It's got to be maintained over time. So if I can easily access or have a qualified maintenance guy that's not a security guy, actually go in a different door, go back and do regular maintenance on a facility, then you're going to get that 30, 40, 50 or longer year facility and it operating properly over that time. Now the options expand outside of what you might think the traditional is. You think the I've got 200, cells or sleeping rooms, so that's all we do prefab. No, we're starting to do a lot more than that. These are control rooms. This is sitting in our plant ready to ship. And then, are you sacrificing anything at all, going forward using prefab? No, this is as clean, and you would not recognize this control room was prefab, once you're operating it at all, unless you notice the better quality. I will say this, just a little bit of brag, where prefab has come, that handrail was mounted in our factory. That is a 6-piece, 6-unit top, and the handrail, the installers are here, the handrail matched up perfectly. So good installation crew, proper product, good result. Now some newer stuff that's coming out and continuing to follow that need to prefab. We now offer what we call a Modback. It's in conjunction with our Friends with Baker group, but it is a, pre-built MEP plumbing stack. Can add fire protection we've talked about, probably could add some electrical in there, but that can be done in a factory. We bring it to this job site. When we stack up the cells to roll them in the building, we attach the Modback, and then our plumbing and MEP hookups are pretty much predefined. They're clean, they're to code. If you're in a union area, they're put together and will arrive with a union sticker on them. But we think, again, this is stepping into an area where we're losing some workforce, or in some cases, the quality that we're getting with the site-built product is less than desirable. Easier to maintain. I'm a sheriff, I've got this, something's broken, something doesn't work, I've got a part detail, hey, SteelCell, can you send me another part 23 and get this thing back going? I think one thing that Baker Group's done well is design some, base product, designed in some HVAC grill cleanouts from this rear chase. We know, 25 years in this, or almost 30 years in this industry, we know inmates will stuff things in any hole and try to hide stuff. So we're trying to think through that and give you some options. Now, some of the new product offerings I'm about to hit you with come out of some collaboration with some treatment providers. Joe touched on mental health. We're going to have a really mental health centric seminar, webinar a little bit later, but working with these treatment providers, facility operators, industry professionals, we're trying to work with them and give some products that have better outcomes. What's a better outcome? Is a better outcome, coming in under budget? Sure, that's one better outcome, but also maybe not as much recidivism. I think most anybody would say 50+% of the people in a county jail now have a diagnosable mental health problem. Maybe that's not true in your county, but I probably read that 20 times. So you are concerned about the outcomes. Sometimes it's someone that's just needs to get regulated back on their meds. Sometimes it's someone that's violent. And there is a debate whether this should be a health care issue or should this be a justice issue. Well, I think most of the sheriff's operation would say it's already a justice issue. Somebody needs to hire the treatment providers. But anyway, we've reached out to you guys. We're trying to hear. We've got some products that are designed around the input we've been given. It's not we don't have models. It's not you pick that entire model. You're going to see a lot of different things that you can do to a cell. And we're listening. We're listening as manufacturers to evidence-based research. Why do we need to provide this product? Well, we're getting from the, maybe the health side and definitely the justice side, we need some better solutions. So we're trying to take, the data that's being gathered, evidence from researching what's going on and create some products. Now, I think the entire team here, it's a very important thing is we're all dedicated to better solutions. For this whole thing, building a jail is part of it. Operating and maintaining and having a safe facility is the much larger part of it. you know, the construction part's going to last a couple of years. You know, you may have taken 20 years to get the public to let you do it, and then, you know, this little flash in the pan, 2 or 3 years you build it, but then you got to operate it safely for 20 or 30 years. So we're dedicated to that. And really, it's in all of our benefit. We're all taxpayers too. It's in all of our benefit to create, you know, spaces may not fix the problem, but to create opportunities for better outcomes. And let's look at some of those options right quick. Now, the thing that we've been hearing most is light, natural light, colors, textures, a little more space. So this is a project that we completed a couple of years ago now in Georgia for the Department of Juvenile Justice. We've added colors, we've added things like chair rail, a more residential look to it. The you know, Willoughby products in here, the toilet and lav, they're stainless steel, but they look like vitreous china. And then we have some you know, plastic molded furniture that's security grade and tested. We also worked with the State of Ohio Youth Services in design and development. Little problem happened there is they didn't pre-qualify. They wanted this and got something way less than this, but you see again, texture, color, chalkboard. You know, juvenile inmates need somewhere to express themselves, so carve it in the wall or give them chalk in the chalkboard. And just FYI, that chalkboard is detention grade steel, the chalkboard paint. You know, wood grain doors are definitely options, and just the color palette is just a little, maybe a better environment, doesn't create as much anxiety for them. Now moving into the unit that we have here today, a good bit more input from the medical community, colors, layouts, ceiling heights, general space. A unique thing, we can control the light intensity, we can control the light color. You know, softer, you know, warm yellows in the morning and evening, and during the day when they have their study or program time, you know, high intensity, you know, bright blue-based lights. We're taking the same approach here. You'll see some more, you know, opportunities for natural light to come in, some borrowed light from one area, natural light from another area, treatment of the toilet fixtures that appear a bit more residential, and divided spaces you'll see when you see the unit. There are partitions with partially obscured vision panels, so as a, you know, as an operator you can see is a person upright, is a person, you know, down on the ground, but you know, you can't see detail of the person's anatomy. So the features that, you know, and I'll definitely be out there with you, but some of the features to ask about to try to see, lighting, you'll be able to see the control system, just a slide bar on the touch screen with accurate. Expanding that amount of natural light and borrowed light. The furniture, take a look, there's a lot of different options. You'll see the Prodigy line and the Norx's Prodigy line in the cell out there. And just what we're trying to do, you know, keeping a security fixture and trying to make it feel a little more residential. Where do we go in the future? Well, let's review that unit and maybe you have some input. But many of the new designs, again, we're thinking about well-being of inmate and staff. We're trying to think about reducing the anxiety level of everybody in the facility, and you know, a living area. Maybe we don't even call them cells in the future, but a living area that's a little more conducive of treatment and being able to leave at the appropriate time and be a better contributor. As with all these options, you know, they're options. You may walk out and say, not in my lifetime, not in my county would I ever go to my citizens and say this is what you need and 300 beds, but you may have a pretty good argument that you need at least 10 beds this way. Or, you know, if you're at a state level, we need a facility with this, or we need a portion of all of our facilities with this type product in there. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. I know we're running behind. We might want to save the questions to our later venue, but if you have them online, again, send them. And, oh, do you have one? Sorry. Two. Okay. Let's see. All right, so one of the questions, your inside cell pictures didn't appear to meet PREA, which is Prisoner Rape Elimination Act. What options do you have for this? Well, you know, there are options that we can provide in partitioning. You're going to see that didn't show up well in the pictures here. You're going to see that in the separation of the two areas of the cell, there are full height partitions with obscured glazing. The obscured glazing is what we've been using with a couple of architectural firms exactly to meet PREA. So we've, on those particular projects, we've divided what would be a glass in half the door into two sections. With an upper section, as a casual observer walks by, you can see the top of head, faces, and the lower section, which could reveal body parts, would actually be obscured slightly. Now the layout that you don't see in the pictures I presented has a partition, one of these partitions right in front of the toilet area. And on an angle, you know, if you really tried hard on an angle, there could be some partial view of that, but it wouldn't be to the casual view. So, you know, if that doesn't work, we certainly have larger partitions. And again, we're happy to address any of those options, but, you know, with the partitions in place, with the obscure glazing, we're getting about the best effort we can. And I think that's the intent of PREA. Have you made every effort to do so? We have, but we can't. I don't think PREA trumps having a security, meeting PREA trumps having a functional security unit. The other question was, do you have a fire-rated cell? If so, what's the hour rating? Currently, we are not offering a fire-rated cell. I think the problem with offering a fire-rated cell is adding continued additional cost to something that's already, you know, pretty costly. And then number two, there's really not enough fuel to even need the sprinkler that building code requires you to put in there. So, you know, right now, where that really affects us on jobs is there's an interpretation of a building code that if you have a padded cell, you must have fire-rated walls. Now, we certainly have ways to do that, but on a global scale, we're not offering currently we're not offering the standard cell or the, you know, multiple cells with a fire-rated option. It may come in the future. We continue to talk to consultants about that, but the majority of designs work perfectly well without a fire-rated cell. We would anticipate that would probably add, you know, somewhere between 10, 15% cost to an already expensive product. So, you know, we'll continue to try to work with the design and code interpreters to try to keep that additional cost out of the cell product. Obviously, it's non-combustible. It has one or two sprinklers that are run in there, so that's probably not going to be a hugely limiting factor for you, with the exception of padded cells right now. But we got a path for that, just an additive measure we do to it. Any other questions? And we can pick up some this afternoon. I don't want to be in the way of you getting to see the products and break. Joe, anything I need to cover? Yeah, I'm sorry. Paul?
Something we just discovered this past year. Can you talk about, as architects and construction managers and county officials, as you're pre-qualifying these products, what kind of state certifications you need that can help underscore?
Yeah, you know, usually I cover that, but you know, it kind of ties in with a question that I was asked earlier. But and I'll get to that too. But yes, every state that we've worked in thus far, you know, bar one or two, has what's called a modular or industrialized building program. And what that program does, you know, value add all the way across the board, is that program ensures, by use of a third party to review plans and specs and to inspect in our plant that unit meets building code, and they label it before it ships. Now, what does that mean? Well, for you owners and designers, it means that there's literally an unaffiliated third party verifying that you're getting what you spec'd and what you designed. From a contractor standpoint, I've got conduit running in the walls, may have wire pulled in some of them, and they're tying to other systems. That stamp is your assurance that your other trades can connect to properly routed conduit, to properly pulled wires, to mount structural components like, not the roof, but the mezzanines to a system designed to hold the mezzanines up. We won't do if we run into a state, we think it's such a value add. If we run into one of those few states that doesn't have a program, we'll still use that third party and just label it as inspected by a third party as assurance, and it's a good quality control program for us. But I was asked, well, what's the difference in that program and ISO 9000 or 9001? Well, if you have nothing and you have no regulatory body of guidelines to go by, then I would highly encourage you to look for a manufacturer that's ISO 9001 certified. But, a pen that we use can be ISO 9000 certified. So it in itself is not telling you that it meets security requirements, detention requirements, or building code. So they are two separate entities. They're not replaceable. They're not substitutable. Quite frankly, the modular industrialized building program itself is very specific to what we're doing here. And the other thing about ISO 9001 from my past experience with another company is its mantra is say what you do and do what you say. So basically you create your own rules and you prove that you follow them as far as quality control goes. We don't create these rules, they're building codes. There's input from the different sectors of industry, so we think that is a far more appropriate program. We would highly, highly, highly caution you to stay far, far away from somebody that can't produce you these documents. We've seen, if you'll approve me and I get the contract, I'll go get approved. Well, how do you know that? And actually that I want to sell it to you before I get approval actually violates the ordinance, the law. It could delay your project. We know there are states looking at harsher penalties for people that try to escape that requirement. So I think that would be a tragedy if you award it to someone else. The state finds out that they weren't licensed to be doing that anyway, and they say, well, yep, you got a good project, but this manufacturer is suspended for 2 years and can't produce your product till that 2-year suspension is up. You're kind of in a bad boat there. Any other questions? Sydney.
Hi, I'm Sydney Goldberg with Goldberg Group Architects. So as we were working on the design of the new mental health cells, we discussed the importance stressed by correctional psychologists in limiting isolation of detainees. So what's the status, and then especially, as we're looking to control costs on facilities, double occupancy cells are also more cost effective square footage wise. So what's the status of a double occupancy mental health cell? Is that in the works as well?
Absolutely, Sydney. We could easily, we have, when you see the cell that we have here, look at the floor plans, you see that we're actually way above any ACA minimum requirement. I think that's going to be an owner driven thing, and just some input from owners. Do you want 2 single level bunks? But my partners kind of get upset at me. I say, if we want it pink and fluffy, we'll try to tell you what the cost is, what the problems are with pink and fluffy, but we're in the business of getting the owner what they need to properly operate the jail. So Sydney, I would say that's just a matter of space planning and conversation with the owner. So it's certainly an available option.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? All right, so we have break right through the doors here, Joe.
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes, and then,
Outside.
yeah, so, if you want to get ahead of the game, grab your break, head on outside. You can come right back through these doors, my understanding. And then you'll see all the tent, the trailers and stuff out there. So we'd love to see you all out there. Thank you again, Paulie Jail, Sanders Group.